Good morning. Today we look at Revelation chapter 8. And chapter 8, the seventh seal is opened. And when he opens that seventh seal, it says there was silence in heaven for about a half an hour. And I mean, try to imagine a half an hour of silence. I mean, that's, sometimes, during prayers, I'll offer a moment of silence and, for personal prayer. And if you try to, just sit in silence sometimes, it's kind of eerie, when you're in a group of people. I mean, there's a lot of times there could be silence in our house, but a half an hour of silence, and it's a long time. This silence is kind of the eerie silence time before the storm really hits. I mean, the opening of the first seven seals was, not nothing like what happens when the seventh seal is opened. And then, half an hour of silence, their prayers are going up, and the seven angels stand before God, and they're given seven trumpets, and then another angel with a golden censer comes and stands at the altar, and much incense is offered with it, with all of the prayers of the saints, it says, and the smoke and the prayers ascend before God. And then they take a fire from the altar and throw it to the earth. And here comes devastation. Here comes destruction. And there were noises, thunderings, lightnings, and an earthquake. And so the seven angels who had the seven trumpets prepare themselves to sound the trumpets. And it's then the trumpets that we really find the chaos. The first trumpet blows, and hail and fire follow. It says, mingled with blood, and they were thrown to the earth, and a third of the trees burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. And think about just that, one third of the trees. And we read about deforestation and the clearing of the Amazon rainforests, and how that's going to in time affect the earth and our atmosphere. But and we know that the trees and the plants, convert CO2 back into oxygen for us to breathe, so that animals can live that way. And so you think about it, a third of the trees and all the grass, and who and what flourishes on the grass. The animals. Many of the animals are eating the grass. That's their diet: grass and leaves and plants. I mean, there are carnivores. We know that, but the destruction that comes from the first trumpet is, it's terrifying to think of just that. Then the second trumpet sounds, and the sea is struck. Something like a great mountain burning with fire is thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea becomes blood. And nothing can live in that. And a third of the living creatures die. A third of the ships were destroyed, and I think a third of the ships, the blood of the sea and the animals and the fish and everything there, and a third of the ships, in John's time when this revelation was spoken, or when he saw this. There weren't so many ships on the sea. I think of today, how many ships are on the sea carrying, goods and people and, everything else. And the devastation and the life that is lost in and through that. It just, it's unimaginable. It really truly is, to think of, a third of the trees and all the grass, a third of all of the fish in the sea are now dead, and then the third trumpet and blows, and more water is struck. And this one, a great star burning like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and on the springs of the water. And the name of this star is Wormwood. And a third of the waters became wormwood. So rather than water, life-giving water, I mean, our bodies are 70-some% water, and without water, I mean, we can't live. I mean, we can live longer without food than we can live without water. And I think about wormwood. There's this plant that grows up, and it's stinky, smelly. It isn't any good, really. I don't think for much of anything. I don't know of anything that wormwood is used for, but so a third of the fresh water, the seawater, we can't drink that without being desalinized and stuff that way. But the rivers and the streams, that's where a lot of our drinking water could come from. I mean, we got underground wells and everything now, but a third of the fresh water is gone. The fourth trumpet sounds, and a third of the sun was struck, a third of the moon, a third of the stars, so that it was that much darker. A third of the day did not shine, and likewise the night. And I think about, we'll hear, especially in our northern part of the world today, we're getting real close to the shortest day of the year. And when the sun shines, it's nice. And like yesterday, the sun was out for a while, and then the clouds came, and we noticed the difference. But to think of, just what the clouds cover, probably not being quite as much as a third of the sun gone, and a third of the moon, and I can look out the windows now, and I can't see anything out there because it's still dark. And Jesus said in his conversation with Nicodemus, light has come into the world, but humankind loved the darkness, loved the sin, loved the evil, and there's more sin and evil and theft and things happen, in the dark, because it's not as easy to be seen and to be caught that way. And so when we lose that much light, it's pretty devastating. And the one thing that I feel about this part of the book of Revelation is that when all of this destruction is happening, we remember what we read yesterday in chapter 7 of the 144,000, the 12,000 of each of the 12 tribes of Israel, and then the whole multitude of those that were saved by the blood of the Lamb. Those who are saved, those who are written in the book of life, we're not going to be experiencing this. This is going to be, it isn't going to be that we're going to be on the earth living through all of this. I truly don't believe that, but the devastation comes, and we've just read 4 trumpets so far, and I think about the impact that devastation will have upon the earth and all living things at that point in time on the earth. And the last verse of chapter 8, John writes, I looked and I heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, because of the remaining blasts of the trumpet of the 3 angels who are about to sound. So it's, what's happened so far is, nothing compared to what's going to happen in the future. The next 3 trumpets that we're going to read. We read tomorrow for sure. We get, the 9th trumpet in chapter 9, and the 5th trumpet and the 6th trumpet, and it's the devastation, the wrath of God is coming upon the sins of the world. And I truly believe that those who are saved will no longer be on this earth, that this devastation will be past that time. I mean, I don't know, that's just me, but I can't imagine God sending all of that devastation to the earth when those who love and fear and worship God and believe in Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior are still going to be here. And it makes, every time I read this book of Revelation, it makes me think of the Left Behind series that was popular many years ago, and I referred to it once in a while. But it's, the believers are going to be safe no matter what. Those who believe in God are going to be safe, whether we are on this earth, which I don't think we will be. But if we are, we will be safe and protected by the love and grace of God.